Hey there, I'm Rick Partlow. Welcome back to How to Write Science Fiction That Doesn't Suck. Um, Today I want to talk something a little different. We constantly talk here about craft, a little bit about how to write efficiently. Um, but I wanted to talk about kind of the ambiance of when you write. Um, what do you use to put yourself in the mood to write? Now, I've been doing this a while. I worked it out that I've written somewhere over 7 million words in my life in books. So I pretty much have that down. But when you're just starting out, it takes a lot of effort to get yourself into the mood to write, to create. And a lot of people use music. And I can't remember, if I'm being honest, what I listened to when I first started out writing professionally. At the time, I had young children, so I listened to a lot of screaming and crying and TV shows like Barney. So I don't know that my experience there is going to help you at all, unless you have young children. In which case, I will tell you that it's possible to write with young children, but it's very slow. I would say that for me now, it depends on what kind of writing I'm doing, what kind of music I listen to. Because if I'm outlining, I really don't like any noise at all. Maybe a little bit of instrumental in the background, just because I've got tinnitus or however you pronounce it, and my ears ring when it's quiet. So a little bit of music in the background to break the silence and get rid of the ringing. But that's when I'm outlining, because when I'm outlining is when I'm making the big decisions. I'm deciding what happens with each character, what happens with the plot. When I am just writing my normal prose, after I've outlined and I know what I'm going to write that day, that's when I start listening to music. And I know some people like to listen to soundtracks, like my friend Josh Hayes, who's on the Military Science Fiction podcast with me. He listens to soundtracks from movies to put him in the mood for different scenes. And I've tried to do that, but I honestly don't like listening to movie soundtracks that often. That is not the soundtrack, like the score of the film. The soundtrack is different than the score, and I'm mixing it. He likes to listen to like the score of movies, the sweeping, uplifting, dramatic, music. I sometimes listen to the soundtrack. Actually, one of my favorite things to listen to while I'm writing is this soundtrack from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, with all the 60s and 70s pop songs. And that's one thing about the music I listen to when I'm writing. It has to be music that I've already heard a lot. Not music I'm tired of that will annoy me. Like there's some songs I can't listen to them. I find them annoying. Even though I've heard them a lot of times, I don't want to hear them again. It's got to be songs I really like, but that I've heard enough that I don't have to think about the words or the music. It's like the music is on in the background. It's comforting. It's good. It's something that doesn't annoy me. But it's also not something where I have to think about, oh man, I need to memorize the words to this song because it's so good. Or I haven't heard this song enough. I need to listen to it some more. Or I need to think about these lyrics because they're really significant. No, I just want something that from like the 70s or 80s or 90s that, not the 90s so much. Music in the 90s sucked. But 70s or 80s, but for you, however old you are, it will be music that you grew up with, that you've heard a lot, that you don't need to think about it. It's just something in the background that will take away the distractions. So whatever that music is for you, that's what for me, it's the 70s and 80s. Classic rock, a little bit of pop, very little bit of country. not rap, not because there's a few rap songs I like, but rap kind of gets me into the beat if it's a song I like, and that is the opposite of what I want to do. I don't want to be pulled into a song. I want the song to be like streaming past my ear and just taking away the distractions with it. So that's me. Sometimes if I am writing a book series like, say, Drop Trooper had 16 novels in it, Taken to the Stars, I'm writing book 12. I know these characters. I can write them in my sleep, and sometimes do. I don't need to sit there and consider carefully how would this character react in this situation, because I know. So in that case, when it's a world I've already built and characters I already know, I can even put like a YouTube video on in the background. Nothing I would have to listen to. Not like a video on history or the making of a movie, but like a YouTube video of car crash. Dash cam videos. I used to watch the Russian ones because the Russians have the coolest car crashes because it's part of their law is that you have to have a dash cam in your car because of all the insurance scams. So, but the problem with the Russian videos, I lost interest because the Russians were so fatalistic. Like, I really expect to be in a car crash, and when I get hit, it's like, wasn't muy. But the Americans still have that outrage, like, oh my God, you hit my car, which is a lot more entertaining. But yeah, just something like that in the background. That can work for me when I'm writing a series that I know the characters and the setting really well. But if I'm writing like the first in a book, then I don't want that kind of distraction. I want, like I said, music that kind of slides past my ear, that I enjoy. It doesn't annoy me, but that I don't have to listen to. Okay, so that's my strategy for dealing with distractions and engaging my brain while writing. What are yours? If you want to get back with me and let me know what you do when you write, I'd be interested in hearing that. You can contact me at dutyhonorplanet487@gmail.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/dutyhonorplanet. That's the Science Fiction Worlds of Rick Partlow. Or you can comment on this YouTube video, whichever works for you. Do you want to know what some of my favorite songs are? It's not science fiction related, but I like a lot of 70s music. When I was raised, I was born in the late 60s, so the 70s was when I started listening to music. I didn't really remember anything from when I was like 3 or 4 years old, but I remember when I was growing up in Brandon, Florida, the house next door, I was friends with the kid, the boy that lived there. So we would hang out there, and his mom used to play the stereo in the middle of the day in the summer, and I would hear all the 70s music coming out of their stereo, and that's like my earliest memories of music being significant to me, because it meant it was summer, I was playing, I was having a good time, you didn't have to worry about school or anything. So like things like Seals and Crofts, I don't know if you heard of them. That's a 70s group, like Dr. Hook, Dave Mason, a whole bunch of different artists from the 70s that I used to hear on summer days. But as I got older, I really got into the 70s classic rock, Led Zeppelin, Boston. Oh, Boston is one of the greatest bands ever that criminally underproduced because of problems with contracts and things like that, and it just breaks my heart because I hear the music they wrote and Well, some of it's kind of like, um, I don't know. The lyrics are kind of pedestrian. They're kind of like, uh, let's party, 1970s rock band type of music. But the guitar work, the actual music is just great. And as they progressed, their lyrics got more in depth and better. And they also produced one of the best songs that's ever been put to record, and that's More Than a Feeling. And I know some people are like, oh, I've heard it so many times. I never get tired of listening to that song. But a lot of music from the '70s had some really significant lyrics. You remember Jim Croce, and his voice was good, his guitar work was good, but his lyrics were so good. Elton John wrote some incredible lyrics. Well, Bernie Taupin wrote them, but his songs had some incredible lyrics. Dave Mason wrote some incredible lyrics. Just the lyrics in the '70s were, in my opinion, superior to anything that came after. And as far as the actual music went, I think the music part of that equation, not the lyrics, but the music, got a little bit better somewhat in the '80s for some songs. And the technical part of the music kept getting better, I think, up until the 2000s. In my opinion, right now, in this era of music, and this is way far afield, but the studio music, the stuff that comes out of the big music studios, sucks for the most part. And the good music comes out independently. People on YouTube, people on TikTok, Instagram, that put up their music. That's where you're finding the really good music, because the stuff that's mass produced has to appeal to like audiences around the world, and it's very simplistic. Let's put it this way. I don't remember who said it. I think it might have been Norman Spinrad, but I don't remember for sure. That 90% of everything is crap. So 90% of all music's going to be crap. And when people look back and say, oh, the music these days suck, the music back in my day was the best, well, they're ignoring the fact they only remember the best music from their day. So I'm not doing that. There was a lot of horrible music in the '70s. I won't mention any songs, because I'm sure to pick one that somebody loves, but there was a lot of really bad music in the '70s. So I'm not sure that any decade can look back and say, oh, the music was so much better then. But nowadays it feels like it's not that it sucks, it's that it's all the same. It's not all the same, like I said, but most of the pop music, let's put it that way, most of the pop music today all sounds the same. In the '70s, it felt like you could have pop music and one pop song be very different from another pop song, because they were just getting into the frame of mind that this was pop and this was rock, and this is all the beginnings of it. So you had more variety in pop. But anyway, that's just my feelings on music, which is really far afield from science fiction. But if you have any opinions on music you want to share, feel free to do that too. I thought this would be kind of a different little video. So let me know what you like to listen to when you're writing, if you listen to music at all, or if you put on a white noise thing, or I think my friend Scott Moon uses that Brain FM online station when he writes sometimes. So what is your strategy to get rid of distractions? Do you use music or something different? Let me know, and I will talk to you next time.